there in the real regions.
Julian Gentile.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. Tēnā koutou e te whare. I rise to speak about infrastructure. After the historic Paris Agreement, which occurred in Paris at the end of last year, I attended an OECD conference on green growth, and the keynote speaker there raised a really important issue, which is the outcome of this historic Paris climate agreement was that all of the countries in the world agreed that we have to do something to limit dangerous climate change. And in order to do that, we have to reduce carbon pollution and other greenhouse gas pollution. And what the keynote speaker at the OECD conference I attended said was that he and his colleagues at Oxford University had crunched the numbers on what would be necessary to achieve the limits to pollution that were agreed to, so we could get that agreed limit to global warming in time. And in order to do that, basically every piece of new infrastructure we invest in from next year, that's 2017, has to be carbon zero. That means we can't be continuing this status quo of increasing carbon pollution or emitting it further at a lower rate. And this is a reality that this national government has completely failed to engage with. There is nothing in Budget 2016 in transport infrastructure in particular that is going to enable us to achieve this goal. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We're continuing the same pattern of increasing spending on road transport as opposed to offering the complements to the road network, which is what is needed in New Zealand, both to reduce carbon pollution and to get better economic outcomes. So here's this incredible opportunity, an opportunity to get better outcomes for the climate and for the economy. And yet, this national government is completely neglecting it. Why would they do such a thing? I think the only reason I can think is that this group of people who are currently in the National Party, particularly the most influential power brokers, are just very wedded to the status quo, out of touch with reality, and backwards looking. That's the only explanation that I can see, except for, of course, where the current Minister of Transport, Simon Bridges, appeals to an as yet completely unproven technology that will somehow save us, like driverless buses. But they have, in this budget, in the estimates, it's quite clear, 92% of the budget is on roads. And when we raise questions about that, the answer we get back from this national government is that if you think less than 92% of the budget should be spent on roads, you're completely against roads. I have news for them. 92% is nearly 100%. You could still spend a considerable amount of the budget on roads and spend 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as much on the complements to the roading network, like the rail network, like passenger transport, more coastal shipping for freight. And that way we get better outcomes for those people and goods that are able to use that new infrastructure to move around, and we take the pressure off the existing road network. It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. And the Green Party is here to actively campaign on clean, fast, modern transport that will make it easier to get where people need to go. And in fact, this type of balanced transport investment is far more cost-effective than what the current national government is doing. So here's an example. We recently launched our campaign for rail for the North Shore. It's very popular. The vast majority of Aucklanders support it. In fact, a tiny minority would support the government's proposal of a road-only crossing. It makes sense because it will move 3 times more people than the road-only option, while costing $1.5 billion less. And I'm not even including the enormous cost on the existing road network of dumping an additional 20,000 cars on it, or needing to find parking somewhere in the city center for 20,000 cars. If we had a rational approach to transport planning and funding, one that didn't limit itself to considering new highway expansions, and instead said, what is the most cost-effective way to move the next bit of people and goods, and how can we do that in a way that meets our agreement in Paris that reduces carbon pollution, we would come up with some fantastic answers. They're all right there in the Green Party's positive plan that will be better for the economy, better for people, better for cities, and better for the climate.